You are now tuned into Check This Out News. We connect the streets. Each and every week, Check This Out News brings you the latest and greatest in all things tech related. And of course, we make tech news hip and cool, and we love our tech nerds. For me, especially all the nerdy ladies that love tech. And I've got Mike Johns on the line. He's here to deliver us everything that we wanted. Mike Johns, how you doing?
Man, everything is good, and we got a lot of things happening in the world of tech, trust me.
Absolutely, man. I'm seeing this story with Siri or Alexa. Many of you know those names, but when I saw the word racist next to their names, I was like, wait a minute. I'm starting to take this a little personally. Tell me more about what's going on with this artificial intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy right now. Have you ever gave Siri or Alexa a command and the device, your smartphone or your smart speaker doesn't recognize it?
True.
What's happening? What's cracking? What up, though? Or, whatever command, just in our dialect and how we speak, there go Alexa. Siri's like,
what the hell did you just say?
It doesn't say that, but in so many ways, there's no action, no call to action after you just gave a command. And that's basically due to the dialect. And this is interesting because a lot of minorities will probably feel the impact on the Siri and Alexa because it doesn't recognize the dialects. And we almost wonder on some conspiracy theories that by design. But for the most part, what we could say is that these particular platforms are governed by AI as well as algorithms, and it recognizes a standardized speech pattern, which kind of makes other dialects, East Coast, West Coast, kind of exempt. So you really have to enunciate your words. You're really having to say it in maybe the proper English, or is there a standard English, I guess, for a call to action to really take place. So it's really interesting. There was a recent study that was done that really brought exposure to the fact that minorities will probably be impacted by this, in which it does not recognize the command.
Wow. That's strong. So there are a whole bunch of jobs that are opening up as it relates to this?
Yeah, so the bad that we got here is the fact that does it recognize every American's voice? No, it does not. There's a standard English that it will recognize, and there's dialects that doesn't. The good, I guess, is the fact that Siri and Alexa, the whole smart speaker get down, is probably one of the hottest things going as we get ready to prep for the holiday season, so much so that Alexa alone has hired over 5,000 people, and they now have room for 1,500 more open positions as it relates to the Alexa product.
Hey.
Yes? May I help you?
Yeah, I heard this. Hi, what's up?
It's interesting to see the state of affairs. You got the dialect issue that certain folks will be having to deal with, but as a product, it's kicking ass, and it'll be probably one of the top 10 sellers for the holiday season that we'll report on in the coming weeks.
Interesting. So keeping it moving, I know the Department of Homeland Security is starting to get into individuals and their social media. What's that all about?
Well, a new DHS policy will go into effect October 18th. It'll force everyone who's been naturalized as a U.S. citizen or who is currently residing in the U.S. on a green card to basically hand over their social media handles just to, keep tabs and make sure you're doing what you're doing. And I like to just say Big Brother is watching. And this according to a new rule that could affect U.S. citizens who have relatives. So this is the kicker. If you have relatives in other countries, you too are also subject to be watched.
Wow. This is, we're in some interesting times, to say the least, especially with certain, of course, terrorism, North Korea. So it's making things a lot more interesting as it relates to that. And staying on the social media side of things, Marshawn Lynch, Beast Mobile, making moves. What's going on with that?
Well, big ups to Marshawn Lynch. This guy is really making moves. You look at him in terms of you played football, you was with the Seattle Seahawks, then you decide to retire, come back in the league, and now you come back even stronger. So I love the fact that you a hometown hero. You're doing a lot for the community. People really have to recognize he already has beast mode clothing and the store in the city of Oakland. He's doing a lot within the city of Oakland in terms of education initiatives for the various schools within Oakland, because it's a sad thing that's going on in Oakland right now. And so to see that he's made some power moves, first with Facebook Watch, which Christian reported last week, that was a big move. But, you know, you have he's one of the first people that Facebook has signed as a part of their new Watch video program, original content. And so he's got an unscripted big check deal with them. And now, most recently, he now has a new phone, Beast Mobile. I know Boost Mobile's got to be paying attention and watching this, but new prepaid phone that's going to be pretty hot. And I think what's really attractive about this is that we're going to have the CEO next week for a special interview who will get more into that. But I think the moral of the story here is that Marshawn Lynch is making some power moves, quietly making some power moves on the sideline.
Man, kudos to Marshawn Lynch. Definitely a big fan. Now, as it relates to minorities in the tech field and tech education, this might surprise some folks as it relates to our president, Donald Trump. What's going on with him allocating this money for minorities?
Yeah, man, this is incredible. We got to give credit where credit's due. I think Mr. Trump, President Trump, he definitely makes headline news daily, but in this one incident, I could say, hey, we got to give him a shout out for this. So this is a new initiative spearheaded by his daughter, Ivanka, in which they're now going to be allocating $200 million towards tech education, which is going to be really good as it's targeted for minorities. And then you have the likes of Facebook, Google, and others who are already going to put an additional $300 million on top of this. So kudos to President Trump. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm actually happy to say, hey, if you're doing something good, we got to give you a shout out for that. So especially in this particular initiative, as we're trying to conquer the digital divide, Trump get a shout out.
Wow. All right. And speaking of balling, because that seemed like a balling type move right there, hip hop has some ballers who have been on the top of Forbes list and are getting a lot of credit, especially in recent weeks. What's going on with that?
Well, you know what? I could say this. You're going to find out more information of this on our website at checkthisoutnews.com. But one of the things that I'll say I thought was really surprising is that Champ is now at the number 5 spot. We already know who the big dogs are. You already hear the Diddy's, the Jay-Z's of the world, Dr. Dre. But Champ, he's bumped to get to the number 5 spot. Big.
Chance the Rapper, man. I know he has a lot of philanthropic efforts, and he's definitely been everywhere doing, a lot of what I would consider the right things that a lot of other young people could certainly follow. So kudos to Chance the Rapper for doing that. Make sure you head over to checkthisoutnews.com so you can get the full update on that list. Now, Facebook, they have a new blood donor feature for India. What's that about and why?
Yeah, absolutely, man. People often turn to Facebook in an emergency to seek blood donors, but it's hard to post to reach people outside of one's network. So now Facebook has really stepped it up to say that they've added a new feature in India to vastly increase the chances of finding donors. Willing donors can register for the service and be notified when somebody requires blood in an emergency nearby. People who need donations will be able to connect with donors who respond. And interesting, when we look at just from the humanitarian point of view, people are always willing to help. We saw this with Hurricane Harvey to what took place there in Miami and what's going on currently in Mexico. People are always willing to help. They just need the tools and information to do so. And I love the fact that Facebook has stepped it up to make that a reality.
Interesting, man. Now, reversing gears for a quick minute and going back to our president, we know that he loves to tweet early mornings, late nights, but apparently he can tweet even more now.
Yeah, man. they're piloting a 280 character count. So this is interesting for all of us. So I just put Trump in the front line because we know that he loves to tweet. So we just now gave him the firepower to be able to tweet more. What's interesting is that they're rolling it out with a selected group of people. And Trump, as much as he's promoted Twitter, as much as he's really brought light to the social media platform in the age of IG, Snapchat, and what have you, didn't make the test club. So there's a group of people that's on this. Once that gets, pushed further along and open up to the masses, and sure, it'll be available for Trump. But interesting, he didn't make that cut.
Okay. Let's talk about this, man. Uber has been in the news for a while. I know the head of Apple headed over there to assist them, but it appears that they've been bought or somebody has invested in them.
Well, I wouldn't say bought as much as the powerhouse god, so to speak, of tech, SoftBank out of Japan, is buying into Uber. And that's a big deal. That's some real disruption to see what they're doing. You've heard us in the past where we've talked about SoftBank playing a key role in the merger between T-Mobile and Sprint. We just covered Mobile World Congress, got a chance to hang out with Pepper, the infamous robot created by SoftBank. And now they're doing a power move by investing in Uber, which is interesting. And meanwhile, they're also shutting down a department for Uber. Having the potential buy from SoftBank is a good thing. But on the flip, they're now starting to shut down their auto leasing program. So if you remember, you could actually do an auto lease program through Uber. No more. They're shutting that down. It didn't prove to be lucrative. So closing the door on that and staying true to what they do best, which is the shared ride program.
Until those self-driving cars kick in, and you're really out of luck. But we ain't gonna talk about that right now. All right, that's that Jetson future. Let's talk about Spotify, man. Spotify is quite worthy and worthwhile right now, right?
Man, Spotify is in the game. I've been following Spotify for quite some time. I got to give a shout out to Troy Carter. That's a brother that played a role within the Spotify growth. And to see how, this company, they're making a strategic move. They've been making strategic moves, I think, for people at large. It's been great just to watch and see what they're doing. They've been evaluated at $16 billion, and that's a major disruption as they're prepping to get into this IPO mode. $16 billion, this now would make them one of the top 3 music platforms, knocking out the traditional platforms. Hello, you know the names. So Spotify, they're disrupting traditional radio platforms, much like Netflix is doing to TV. The old dog does get old, and the new dog is coming in.
Spotify put us in the game. Let's get to it.
Yes, indeed.
Let's talk about this, man. Life expectancy in America. Is it up or is it down?
Well, big data leads way for us to know a lot. And I think this particular one, I want to tell our listeners to go and find out some real shocking facts that big data provides. Based on where you live in the U.S., your life expectancy is affected. Let's just say Virginia or the coal mining states and the diseases that they're affected by. So CDC, the Center for Disease Control, has put out a recent report that can tell where in the country some of the number one diseases are, be it cancer, violence, domestic violence. Alaska, believe it or not, is probably leading the charts in that regard. Areas where you're able to live longer versus live less. The stress of life in New York City versus the epidemic of HIV and AIDS in areas of Florida. You got to check this out at checkthisoutnews.com. This is a good example of where you could see big data analytics breaking down America in terms of disease and where they're most prevalent.
Wow. Something else that I thought was real interesting that's taking place in the world of tech are these drone copters, okay, in Dubai. Now, we know Dubai is always ahead of the world in so much that they've done, especially when it comes to technology, but they seem to be one up on everybody else with this. What's up with drone copters and what are they?
Yes, so they have a new copter that's going to be, they're still beta testing. We're about 5 years out. They hope to actually release this 5 years from now. Your new taxi cab service will be a drone and can bring you from point A to point B within 30 minutes. If you're after 30, 35 minutes on up, it's not happening because the battery life of a regular drone, let